Sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Hi, this is Faith. Welcome to the Faith Washington Show. We will discuss life, business, leadership, family, and fun, and what happens when your view of the world expands. A wide variety of guests will provide insight on how they do business, family, and leadership in their lives. So now, here's today's show. Good evening, folks. Thanks so much for joining us. We are live on Facebook and Periscope at the Faith Washington Show, and we are also live on 95.3 FM, 1470 AM, and the iHeartRadio app. Wow. I have an amazing guest here tonight. Her name is Jianny Adamo. Thank you so much for coming, Jianny.
Thank you, Faith, for having me.
And we are going to speak about fearless love. She is a licensed mental health counselor and a certified relationship coach. And how about if you tell us what your practice is about? Yes, please.
Yeah, I'd love to. I am a licensed mental health counselor and a certified relationship coach. In fact, I just got an award last week, and I've been named the Relationship Coach of the Year by Women in E-Commerce. And there was like a whole big reception down in Fort Lauderdale. This was last Friday. So it was a great honor, and it was given to me because I am an expert in my field, and I'm using the internet to educate and empower others in the area of mental health, in the area of healthy relationships, and knowing the difference between toxic relationships and healthy relationships.
Awesome.
Yes, so it's a great honor. So anyway, what do? I do specialize in creating safe and intimate relationships with singles and couples who desire to be committed and monogamous with one another and be married and live hopefully happily ever after.
Is there really a happily ever after?
I think there's some bumps in the road to the happily ever after.
I think you're right.
I also work with individuals who are divorcing, individuals who are grieving, who have lost a loved one, or just through divorce or abuse have lost a loved one.
Right.
Because that's also very traumatic. So I work with trauma and abuse as well. And that's obviously a lot of grief work. So I sit with my clients, help them to restore, help them to see the truth, especially when there's a lot of trauma involved, a lot of psychological abuse. They need to come back and be restored back to health again and understand that it really was not their fault. And this is something that most people don't understand. The victim was not at fault. Basically, when you're in an abusive relationship, if you're involved with a narcissist or someone who's emotionally abusing you, they're just dangling you in the relationship, and your brain is not even catching half of this because it's like undermining you. It's under the current. You're not really seeing it. So it's very hard to determine when you are in the middle of that. It's later on when you start seeing the red flag and you start seeing like, wow, I missed all of this stuff. So there's usually like a lot of disbelief, a lot of self-doubt that individuals have, and all of that has to be restored. We have to heal all that and help the client come back to wholeness again.
Well, one of the words you used is dangling, and that I think was in reference to, like we discussed before the show, the narcissistic type relationship. Maybe you could kind of expound on that just a little bit. I mean, we can't go into too much depth here, but what does that look like? What does that look like from kind of both sides of the fence? And if you could just give us a little bit of information.
Part of the problem is that there's usually a lot of lies and deception involved with a narcissist. So that's the beginning of the problems.
Okay.
That you don't have solid ground.
Okay.
Every time you say your truth or the truth, something is being spun for you. They're not taking full responsibility. They're not being held accountable, and they will not allow themselves to be held accountable. And yet in marriage and in a committed relationship, we are accountable to one another. And when you are loving that person, your brain is set up, and you're wired to love, by the way. We are wired to love. So our brain is set up that we are always going to consistently be looking for the connection. So anytime there's a break in our relationship, we're just wired to see connection. So we're always going to see their best, and we're going to try to believe them, especially in the beginning when you're in the honeymoon phase still.
Right.
And then eventually you're very much entrenched because now you probably have the children, you have a house, you have a mortgage, you have financial responsibilities, the community's behind you, you have things entrenched in the community. and your family members. So you don't break a marriage up overnight. There's so many things and so many layers that have to come undone before you can finally walk away. So it's not that easy. So coming back to what underlines some of this abusive stuff is lies and deception. And then there's this control. There's control and power and control. They do not allow you to be in your own power. Like as we said, you are hinging on them. And that's because they're emotionally manipulating you. So with emotional abuse, they're basically chiseling away at your power. So,
so that you are disempowered, so that you are not the powerful being that you really are. You're this doubting, disempowered, wow, this is all I deserve. This is all I get because it's crumbs. It's all I deserve.
Yes, exactly. And they use a lot of the dangling and suspension type of games. So they're always promising you something. There's always a promise. You're like, oh, here comes another promise. They're never going to verbally abuse you again. They're never going to call you names. They're never going to call you fat. They're never going to call you ugly. They're never going to... whatever. They're always promising you, oh, they're going to take you away on this great vacation. We're going to reconcile our relationship. There's always like,
oh, they're going to go to counseling. They're going to, oh, I'm going to get better. This is just, I'm really not this way.
They're always promising you like there's going to be something better coming. So then, once again, your brain is set up to connect and to believe, because if you don't have trust, then you don't really have a relationship.
Good point.
There's no relationship without trust. And that goes for any kind of relationship, whether it's a professional relationship, business, relational, personal, intimate relationship. You
friendships,
definitely, friendships.
Anything.
You need trust. So the reality is, because the trust is constantly being broken and your confidence is always being broken, you're always seeking after them to validate and to give you proper answers, but yet you're always kept dangling, and you either have to just accept and go into silence. Usually you just go into silence, you just stop arguing.
Exactly. You just, there's no more fight left because you're so sick and tired of it that you say, okay, well, all right, this is the way it is, and that's that. And wow, I just have to resign yourself to this is my lot in life, and this is what it looks like.
And behind the scenes, your self-esteem is being ebbed
Crushed.
into zero.
Yeah.
No self-esteem.
Yeah.
Your sense of
Self-doubt,
confidence.
your, like you were saying, your sense of beauty and how you think about yourself or you view yourself, because it's all been
crushed,
squashed.
So that's all part of the narcissistic abuse, where you're kind of just left empty and feeling stripped. If that is you, you know you've been dealing with a narcissist for sure. Okay. And actually, that's actually one of the biggest red flags to figure out what's going on.
Like, okay, so tell our audience what here, look in this camera. Tell our audience, what is that red flag?
Okay. You have to trust your intuition.
Thank you.
You have to trust your feelings.
Your gut instinct.
Yes.
If you know that this doesn't feel good, guess what? It's not good. Yeah. Run.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Run.
Run, and as quickly as just run. And it's funny because I had my intuition tell me once that I was in trouble, that this person did not possess a conscience. And I did not listen to my intuition. I know, bad decision.
No, it's not.
Very bad decision.
Right, but you know something, in that moment, because we're looking to fill a hole.
And we think everybody's good. Oh, we think everybody's good and
wonderful. We give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
But the problem is that we give them the benefit of the doubt, but we're not giving ourselves the benefit of the doubt. And therefore, that's how we get embroiled in these types of situations. And you know something? I can't say that anyone's to blame, so to speak, because I think every human starts out with good intention. I think only the toxic or the malignant narcissists are the ones who don't start out with a good intention.
That's
Their
correct.
intentions are quite evil.
Yes.
That's what I always call unadulterated evil. Scary evil.
They are scary. Yeah, I ended up with the sociopath, and I did not listen to my intuition. But he was very sweet and charming, as you could imagine, because they really are.
Right. Oh, absolutely. They're charismatic.
Yes.
Very charismatic.
Very charismatic.
On the surface.
And
that surface.
And
yes.
I had known him already as an acquaintance for over a year. So then when your gut and your intuition all of a sudden tells you there's something wrong, there's no conscience here, and you have nothing to back it up, that's the problem. Because then I went back into the history. I've known this man for a year. He's held on to a marriage for 20 years. You know, he was divorced at that point. He's got children, which seem well-adjusted. He's got a career. He does well in his career. So why would I think he's a sociopath?
You're like looking at the external evidence going,
Yes.
well, for all intents and purposes,
Yes, he's so normal.
it looks normal to me, but really my gut's telling me,
Yes, run. And it really did. My God actually told me to run. So I ended up thinking I was going to run. So I was like, you know, thank you very much. Have a great life.
Right.
But unfortunately, he had already triggered my chemistry. So it was too late for me because when your chemistry is triggered.
In the brain.
Yes.
The chemicals are released, the oxytocin, the feel good,
the
the
dopamine.
bonding, the oxytocin and dopamine, once they're released and you feel that bond, it's really tough.
Yes. Now your attachment system has been activated.
Right.
You're now bonding with this person for good, for bad, or for ugly. Well, for me, was for ugly because he ended up being a sociopath. I'm laughing, but like he was. He had no conscience. And I can laugh about it now. I have written a book about this.
And a lot of healing had to go into that. And what's the name of that book? Because it's not out yet, folks. It's in the editing phase. But what is the name of your book?
It's called Love Trauma. I don't have the final name for the book yet because it's an editorial phase.
Keep it short.
Okay.
Yeah, keep
but
it
basically,
short.
I am giving 7 tango lessons for healing emotional and sexual abuse after a relationship with a narcissist, a psychopath, or other toxic people.
Okay.
Because that's basically what they're using. They're using their tools to manipulate and control us as emotional abuse, period.
Do you really believe that they're completely cognizant of what they're doing? Or do you believe, okay, all right, there are varying levels of this, or do you believe that they're using these tools as survival mechanisms to get the legitimate needs that they have met in an illegitimate way?
They are in survival mode, yes. That's the first thing. Most of these individuals have been hurt and wounded in childhood.
Could be sexually abused, emotionally abused, neglected, abandonment. All these issues come into play with someone who is exhibiting these types of behaviors. And I believe in the good of everyone, so I always think, well, you know what? They're really not doing it intentionally unless they're malignant or the toxic kind. Do you believe that these individuals could heal from this?
Okay, so the situation is that if they have an actual personality disorder, these are fixed personality traits. So they believe that there's nothing wrong with them.
Right.
They think that their reality is perfectly fine.
Okay.
They believe that you have the problem and all of your complaints and emotional outbursts are the problem because obviously you're reacting to their abuse. So they've learned these tactics in survival mode. They've had to grow up in a household, usually most likely
with all those things.
Yes, with all those things present. So in order to survive, they've learned these tactics. And they just haven't outgrown them. But the problem is that they keep doing it over and over again in adulthood, seeing the pain it causes their loved ones and their friends or their coworkers. And now at this point, they're getting their high anyway. They're getting they have an inflated ego and they need to feed their ego. So this is how they feed their ego. They have a power trip. So they love to see other people squirm. So they love to dangle other human beings and exploit them. It's all about exploitation. So those who have like the sociopathy, psychopathy, they just get a high out of exploiting people. So a malignant narcissist is a sociopath, is a psychopath. So all of the sociopath, psychopath type of people, they are narcissists, but not all narcissists are sociopaths
or psychopaths. Okay. Yeah, there is a little bit of
overlap.
There's some overlap, but there's also some delineation that's pretty clear if you study it closely enough. So the book is going to be about the lessons, you said
7 tango lessons.
Tango lessons.
Yes.
And then how to work through those things? Are you going to
So it's a
delineate
journey.
that? Or okay.
The book is actually a story, and it's a journey where Elena, the protagonist, has ended the relationship, or they've ended. It's been a year afterwards, and she's kind of starting to wake up and realize that he's not a normal man. And it normally takes about a year. When a person has been involved with a sociopath, and most of the psychopaths are males, unfortunately, there's not a lot of females. It's mostly males that go to that extreme.
But females can also.
But yeah, it's very small percentage. It's like 0.5% in the U.S. of female sociopaths.
Wow.
The majority are males.
Okay.
So when you have been involved with a sociopath to that degree, it takes about a year for you to start waking up from the fog to recognize that he wasn't a normal man, that he actually was a sociopath, because there was so many lies and deception involved in the relationship that and you have so much self-doubt, you have so much disbelief, you have also some layers of denial because there was just so much going on that was just unrealistic to you. And it takes about a year for you to start thawing out and recognizing the signs, and then getting help and reading the books and understanding, wow, I was in love with a toxic human being who did not have the capacity to love at all.
Right.
And that's what's the sad part. When we as human beings are involved with someone who's loveless, it strips us, and then it makes us feel like anger and bitterness because we loved, but we can't do that.
Nope.
The problem wasn't us, it was them.
Right, but I think that's where the turning point occurs, is when as you call them, the victim or the person who was involved in this with a toxic individual actually is able to step outside of that and go, wow,
Healing,
it's okay. I did this. I need to be okay with the fact that I did this so that I can move forward and heal and never go through this again.
You are the victim of emotional abuse, and until you don't understand that, your recovery will not be complete.
And emotional abuse, as we talked about before the show, this is very interesting. Like, you can see physical abuse, sexual abuse, all these things can be validated, but emotional abuse can't be validated because it's internal.
Yes.
It's within you. Like you said, the bleeding is internal. And
there are no bruises on the outside. The bruising's inside. No one sees
that you have actually encountered this kind of person, and they would never know.
It is so dark, and it's so evil, and it's so cruel, because the perpetrator knows that they have isolated you, because that's another part of the red flags.
Huge isolation, keeping you in one place, doing the same thing over and over again, and you just can't move out of that.
Yeah, and they usually at the end of the day end up controlling the finances, controlling social stuff, where they don't participate with family events a lot of times.
They have friendships.
Say,
do the narcissists have friends?
Oh yes. Oh, they have a fan. They have fans, because they know how to charm. They know how to charm everyone.
But their acquaintances, they're not deep friendships.
Of course not. Yes.
That's the differentiation. Is they're only superficial friendships. They're not deep.
But those other human beings, if they have a heart, they may believe that they have a close friendship with
Of
the
course.
narcissist, because especially if the narcissist is playing
they
them.
make them feel. They make them feel that way. It's like they can make the other person feel that way, but do they extend themselves, and do people really get to know them?
Yes.
If anybody says, do you know this person? And they'd be like, well, no, not really. I find that fascinating.
It's true.
Fascinating.
So it's shattering for us, like I said, who get involved with these individuals, because it's so dark. But part of the journey of healing is to ultimately forgive ourselves and being involved with a loveless individual. That's just, it's as simple as that. I know it sounds simple, but at the end of the day, it's a journey to get to that simplicity, that it's just a journey of allowing ourselves the ability to let go, forgive them, and forgiving ourselves, and move on and reestablish a healthy life, and finding a normal human being who can love you.
Wait, normal.
Yeah,
okay.
Not a narcissist.
Gianni, all right, wait a second. I always tell people, normal is the setting on a dryer. None of us is normal. I don't believe that any of us are normal.
A narcissist is not normal, yes.
Agreed.
But someone who can love you and be safe for you, reliable for you, that would be normal.
Right.
Someone who's
Someone
dependable and
who can
accountable.
who can communicate with you and literally shares in that desire to communicate clearly and to communicate regularly. And I think that's one of the missing pieces with.
But some of those narcissists do communicate. They're excellent. In fact, some of them are on the radio, they're on
Right.
TV, because they're very articulate.
Right, and charming, and
And
the
charming, and usually
Right.
good looking. So, they win lots of points with that. Yes.
right. But the
But you need
superficiality,
reliability.
right?
Yeah.
The superficiality of that, there isn't a lot of depth.
No depth. So this is why when you are looking to be Mr. or Miss Right, you're looking for character. You're looking for someone with substance, whose yes is yes. If they're going to call you, they actually call you.
Right.
When you text them, they actually respond. They're not counting 2 days and 3 hours for them to finally respond to you. Like, who does that? Like, really? Those are insecure people playing games.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that I think on that journey to healing is that you begin to understand your own insecurities. You begin to see, wow, you know what? This is where I fell down, and this is what I felt. And because I wasn't really fully operating in my own personal power, that's why you were looking for it in someone else who has those traits, those character traits that are external, because, your depth is inward and theirs is outward. So you kind of look for someone who's like opposites attract, is what people
Opposites
say.
do attract.
They attract, but it doesn't mean that they're always appropriately paired together.
Yeah. I actually want to speak to, I think there's a myth in our society that says that we must love ourselves like almost wholly and completely before we can find this wonderful other half.
Yeah, I hear
And
that.
that's
I hear that.
BS.
I hear that a lot, because I don't know of anyone who's just
Because
completely thrilled with themselves.
Yeah.
I mean,
Who's perfect?
no one.
Nobody.
Thank you. No one is
We're
perfect.
full of drama. We've got
Yeah.
history. We've got baggage.
Wait, drama?
Yes,
Excuse
we've got
me,
drama.
darling. Let's hear that again. Can you look into your camera and tell me, if you think you don't have drama in your life,
We do.
think again?
Yes, we have drama. We have drama, trauma. We've got it all. We've got it all going on.
It's the drama trauma. I
So-
mean, people have that inside, and unless you heal it, are you actively looking to
Yes.
kind of neutralize that?
But here's
It's
the
there.
truth. Here's what I want. I definitely want you guys to take this one away. It's not that you need to love yourself perfectly, because we're on a journey to learning
Right,
how to love.
right.
We're all on a journey, so we're not going to be perfect ever, and that's okay. It's about accepting our vulnerabilities, our humanness.
Yes.
But it's about finding a partner who's also honest and sincere and has the capacity to love.
And to love, forgive, and
Yes.
really, learn. You learn and grow. You learn and grow together.
Yeah.
So to me, that's kind of what it's all about. It's just my thought.
You
I
grow
mean,
together in love. That's
my
the whole
thought.
journey. The whole journey is about growing together in love as a couple, as human beings. We evolve, we grow, we heal. Love is very healing. So when you have a healthy partner who is a non-narcissist, who can talk with you, who can share his life with you, who isn't living behind closets and secrecy and deception, you're free to attach and to bond, and then focus your attention outward and build your empire, whatever
Thank
that may
you.
be.
Exactly. Build the empire. Yeah, baby, that's why we're here. We're
There
here
you
to
go.
build. We're here to build empires. We're not here to build little things. And that was something that we spoke about too. Is that you built your business? All right, this wonderful practice that you have. How many years did it take you? You started from grassroots, from the ground up, at the recession time.
Yes. Oh my God, it was awful.
And I want to hear about that. Our audience wants. Oh, we've only got a couple minutes, so
Okay.
talk about that.
All right. So I arrived here in 2010, right in the middle of the recession, and no one knew how long this recession was going to last.
Right.
And I came by myself. I had divorced after 15 years of marriage. So I was with the same man. We were still friends. We have a very amicable divorce. After 17 years of being with the same man, I moved to South Florida, and I had no idea this was like the mecca of like sex and love addictions and crazy people. But anyway,
Wait,
I became one of them. That's the whole funny thing. Because I'm not leaving. I'm staying.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So in the middle of me starting over, I had to, obviously in Florida, they don't reciprocate with other states on licensures.
Of course
not. We're very special here, and I get why we're
very
special now.
You know why we're
Yes,
special, girlie.
I know exactly why we're special.
That's right. It's called
So-
the retirees are not allowed to come down here and practice when they're not able to practice.
Yes, there you go. So I did. It was a grassroots effort for me. I joined the chamber. I joined leads groups. I started writing. That's how I started writing, by the way. And now I'm
Journaling?
Yes. No, writing my blogs. And
Okay.
I've been featured in many different places. I get syndicated.
Oh, nice.
That's one of the ways that a lot of people find me, through my
Okay.
blogs. And actually, you can go to fearlesslove.net.
Fearlesslove.net. And what else?
That's my website.
Okay.
So www.fearlesslove.net. And if you go to the blog section, there's a ton of fantastic blogs. A lot of them have been syndicated.
Okay.
And I've gotten so many wonderful feedback and so many wonderful people emailing me, thanking me for writing. And, you know, one of those stories, actually, let me give you, we only have 2
quick.
minutes.
Yeah, we only got a couple.
Okay, so I can't give you stories.
Okay.
Could I give you a
No.
story?
Oh, if it's like 30
Okay.
seconds.
I actually got I've had several men email me about thanking me about writing about narcissists, and psychopaths, because it actually answered the questions onto the type of men that or man that their daughters were married to.
Oh,
so I
my.
get even men who absolutely love my blogs and my articles.
That's fantastic. And that's something that's really important, is that, you know what, you really want to make sure your daughter isn't going down that path. And if you see it, they can even net you in so that you believe that they're perfectly A-okay. Jianny, I have enjoyed this so very much. And this is what we're going to do. When her book comes out, I'm going to have her back on the show. We're going to talk about the book, how you can get the book, and maybe have some callers call in and we'll give the book away.
Oh, yeah, that'll be great.
I would just love to see the progression here and kind of keep track of as your career builds and grows. You know, despite the challenges, you've built and made a wonderful practice, and it takes a lot to do that. It takes a lot of grit and determination to build any business.
Oh, yes.
But something where you're dealing with folks, it's not easy. But thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Faith.
Thank you so much, folks, for joining us. We are live here on Facebook, Periscope, The Faith Washington Show, and we are also live on 95.3 FM, 1470 AM, and the iHeartRadio app. We'll see you next week, Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. See ya.